What's happening, everybody? This is Crushing Crypto with your host, Colin Andrews. And today we have a really special guest for our interview today. We have Mr. Ben O'Hanlon, and he is part of the team at Komodo Coin, which is actually one of the tokens that have been on my list, on my research list for quite a while now. And as I was researching them, I was like, you know what? I'd really like to do an interview with these folks and really just understand more about what they're doing, about what the future is for them, and really get a better idea about what they're doing. To kind of give you an idea, at this moment right now on CoinMarketCap, they are number 61 out of over 1,600 tokens now. So, you know, these folks, they have international recognition as far as being a token that a lot of folks, a lot of really intelligent people, speak highly of them. And for me, in my investing, I do like what I call the blue chips, which I would say, the first 10, 20 tokens, the ones that, have been around for a long time. But one of the things that I also do is really kind of keep an eye out on the top 100 and see what the top 100 are doing as far as, what is what's their niche, or what is it that they're focusing on, because that's where you can get some really good gains, is by finding these folks that they've proven themselves to a certain point, but they're not one of the top 10, 20 tokens as far as overall market share and overall volume. So, these are one of these folks that I wanted to jump on the call with. And Ben's been with the token for quite a while now. And so we're going to learn more about Komodo, what they're trying to do. We're going to talk about privacy coins. We're going to talk about dApps, which are decentralized applications. And we're just going to jump right in it. So grab a piece of paper and a pen and take some notes, and we'll jump on it. So welcome to the call, Ben.
Hey, thanks for having me, Colin. I'm really pleased to be here.
Absolutely. Excellent. So, let's jump right in for the folks. And I know a lot of people that are watching the show today, they have heard of you guys. They're probably, checking it out to get more information, or maybe they're already investors in your token and they want to get a better idea as far as what it is that you guys are doing. And for everyone that's watching, that's one of the things that I really recommend is don't just look at the website, the hype, the marketing. That you can have the best technology in the world, or the best ideas, or the best goals, but if you don't have the right team that can actually take it from the start and really have the ability to execute on it, all it is a bunch of milestones and goals that never get accomplished. And so I really recommend understanding the background of the team, what they've done before, and really getting a good idea of what it is that they're trying to do. So that's what we're doing here, is to really give more education behind the actual token, beyond the hype. Who are the actual people that are going to get the job done? So without further ado, Ben, if you could, for those that don't know, just let's pretend that these people, they haven't heard of Komodo, from a large, high level. Can you kind of explain what Komodo is, and just kind of how you guys are trying to set yourself apart from, the rest of the all the other currencies that are out there?
So there's a lot of projects that are built like businesses. They're organized like businesses or enterprises, right? Komodo is really a decentralized project. The founder is called JL77. He's anonymous. He originally, with some of the team, were involved in Bitcoin Dark, and before that in the NXT chain. So these guys are really old school, and they're heavyweight developers, okay? You're looking at a project, it's a platform. It's like an ecosystem, and I'll explain why. But you're looking at an ecosystem platform where the biggest weakness is marketing. Now, I don't want to say that because obviously I'm sitting here, I'll get shot, right? But the tech teams are really innovative, and they're forward thinking. The Chinese ministry ranked as top 5 out of all projects, the second most innovative after Bitcoin. Okay, we were in the top 20, but it's roundabouts. Okay, so what Komodo is, it's about lowering barriers for blockchain businesses that want to build, right? And a good example of that is like Intel builds chips and they're targeting developers and computer manufacturers, and they're offering this kind of technology to them, okay? So Komodo is a little bit like that. So a lot of the projects or coins that your audience are going to come across, and their target audience is the general public, right? That's who they're trying to hit. So Komodo isn't doing that. There's some really interesting stuff about Komodo, okay? But before I dip into it, right now, we've just successfully done a test of 10,000 transactions per second. And that's surpassing Visa. Yeah, it's like number one, okay? But yeah, and I will go into it, but you know, Komodo is not hyped. I've got my conspiracy theories about it because we don't have the VC backing and this kind of stuff, right? But we have some really, really exciting stuff. But let's go from the top level. So one, Komodo is an optional privacy coin. It's a fork of Zcash. We're doing knowledge proofs, right? So it's a coin that will reward you for being active. So if you're in the Agama wallet, you're storing that coin, you get up to 5% rewards over the whole year, okay? So it's something that's going to give you back for actually using it, right? The second thing is that Komodo has a multi-coin wallet called Agama. So it's somewhere you can store your coin, okay? It also has a decentralized exchange, and it's world-class leaders in atomic swaps. And that's really relevant to a decentralized exchange because atomic swaps power a decentralized exchange. What's an atomic swap? It's a peer-to-peer trade without a middleman, okay? And what's a decentralized exchange? It's a wallet-to-wallet trade without a middleman. So why is that important, right? Because you're not having to risk your private keys, okay? DEX, which is our decentralized exchange, has like a liquidity power where if you want to place one buy order, you can do that with one set of funds, but you can place up to 5, right? If you go into Bittrex and you place a buy order with 1 Bitcoin, you just better hope it fills, right? But with DEX, you could put 5 buy orders with the 1 Bitcoin. First one to fill counts as all the others. So you get much more kind of, you can do a lot more with your money, right? So this is the decentralized exchange called DEX. But going back to my analogy about Intel, it is the engine, okay? So if you think about it, a lot of what Komodo is doing is they're giving an underlying layer of tech to the projects. So I say that DEX is the engine because it's like being white labeled. Other projects can build a GUI, which is a graphical user interface, and put that on top. So that would be the chassis of the car, right? Lots of cars look really different, but they might all have like a Rolls-Royce engine in. Maybe I should have said planes would have been a better analogy, right? But so DEX is the decentralized exchange underneath it, right? So I've gone through. It's an optional privacy coin with rewards. It's a multi-coin wallet. It's a decentralized exchange. And I've done that in that order because I want you to understand that when someone builds on the Komodo platform, they're getting access to liquidity without having to pay really cost prohibitive fees to centralized exchanges. You might choose to do that, but you don't have to. And you could be a really small business, right? You could be a really small entrepreneur. And maybe you don't want to raise a huge amount of money because you really do want to do something that's decentralized. So it gives you more choices in that way. It gives you the coin wallet to store the token on the coin in, right? But now we're going to get to the meat and bones of it because Komodo also offers independent chains. Okay, so
independent chains, you said?
An independent chain, yeah. So let's think about something like Ethereum, all right? And the analogy, if my boss was here, this is what he would tell you. It's Steve Lee is the CMO, right? I'm under him, right? But he would talk about how Ethereum is like a motorway, okay? And there are lots of different other drivers who are projects. And the problem with Ethereum, or some people might say, right, I'm not trying to put it down. I know you'll have like loads of Ethereum like fans. I'm not trying to, but the thing is you can have some congestion like you saw with CryptoKitties, right? The Ethereum motorway can get congested. It can suffer from kind of governance issues like tolls, okay? You could be impacted by bad drivers. So we're not calling CryptoKitties bad because I own some CryptoKitties, but we're saying because they were so successful, it slowed everything down for everybody else, okay? So Komodo is like giving you your own motorway. It's giving you your own motorway, okay? And if you get really busy, it can keep adding lanes. That's one analogy of it, right? But if anybody knows about blockchain, as these blocks are getting solved, right, there's a hash rate, isn't there? There's the number of miners, the number of electricity that's being devoted to that chain, okay? So I want you to think about hash rate as like a river of electricity, okay? All the miners are in the rivers solving the blocks, but it's like all of that electricity all around the world that's going through those miners. It's creating a river of electricity for that chain. Without the electricity, it wouldn't exist, okay? So what's the problem with having a small independent chain? Well, the problem is that the river is very small. It's a stream. It's very easy to like dam or attack or manipulate, right? So you heard like a 51% attack. In this analogy, we're saying a 51% attack would almost be able to like get over the river. Do you see what I mean? To be able to build that dam to get the bridge over, then you could manipulate it, right? So what Komodo does and what James Lee did is they created something called delayed proof of work. So who has the biggest hash rate? Bitcoin. But do you know how much bigger the hash rate is? Can I swear on this program? It's really much bigger, right? It's a lot bigger. I can get I'll get you a chart in a minute. I don't know if we can, but and you'll be able to show your audience. But if we were looking at the chart, Bitcoin would be up here, and every other project, including Ethereum, including Bitcoin Cash, would be way down, way down.
It's on the hash rate you're talking about.
The hash rate, it's not even close. It's not even close.
Not in the same ballpark, right? As far as overall.
Not in the same league, right? And that's what so many people don't think about. So the point of having a small independent chain is great. You're independent. You're free to be able to build your business how you want. So what James Lee did is he gave you the security of Bitcoin because he would notarize on Bitcoin's chain. Now, if Bitcoin, for some reason, if Roger Ver manages to do the switching, right, we can change the chain that we notarize on. So we're not dependent upon Bitcoin, but we're choosing Bitcoin because it has the biggest hash rate. So what that means is instead of having to attack your small chain, if you're independent, they would have to attack your small chain, but also Komodo and Bitcoin. So it's a very effective counter to a 51% attack, which is why Game Credits, who's another project, have recently adopted delayed proof of work. I also know, I'm not sure, but anyway, whether I can say, but Creds is going to adopt it too. Like I've personally
you said Decred?
Creds, Kreds, Creds, yeah.
Okay.
And I've been in conversations recently with other projects that are considering it, right? So delayed proof of work is a counter to all of the 51% attacks that you're reading about, right? Can you
talk about that delayed proof of work? Because I think that's a term that very few people, and also, some of the folks that are watching, they're new with crypto. So, if you can kind of slow down just a little bit for all the folks that are there, I can tell that, you got you know what you're talking about, and I can tell you're excited about it. So kind of for the folks, pretend that, there's some Homer Simpsons that are here as far as just really understanding some of the different terms that you're talking about.
Okay. So let's go back. You know how I first got into this is a preamble, but you're going to love it. Well, maybe you won't. We'll find out. Right. So basically I read a book called The Mystery of Banking once, right? It's about fiat currency, and it's about how a centralized bank, they used to have a lot of gold coins, and eventually they convinced people to use paper. And the paper had a promise to it. It had to have a certain amount of gold backed by it. And then if you learn about your history, eventually they moved to just paper. And that's what fiat is. It's just paper currency. It's backed by nothing. So why is that important? It's because there is no restriction on how much paper you can print, which is why the dollar or the euro, some people believe is going to crash, right? Because there's nothing stopping them printing more. And nowadays it's just digits in a screen, right? So why was gold important? Why was it that like gold coins were more valuable than say paper money? Because there was a limited resource. If you and I owned a gold mine, okay, at a certain point, it would become more expensive to send people down the mine to get the gold out than it would be to have the gold, right? So it's not even a question of that there wasn't enough gold in the world. It's that the gold near the surface that's easy to mine, there's only a certain amount of it. And the harder it gets to mine, the more valuable the gold has to be, the more the price of gold has to go up for us to keep sending men down the mine to get it, right? Does that make sense? Absolutely. So what's proof of work is the next question. Proof of work is like a valuable commodity or resource that's being devoted to get Bitcoin or whatever the cryptocurrency is back, right? So in this case, it's like time and electrical power and computing power. Right. So what was really clever that I'll mispronounce this now, but Satoshi Nakamoto, what was clever is he solved this kind of challenge, right? Like what you devote your computing power. The incentive is the better your computing, the more power you devote, the more chance you have to solve a block, right? But interestingly, there's no mercy when it comes to trying to solve a block. You could have tried really, 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 really hard and got really, 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 really close. But if I picked you to the post, that's it, I get all the rewards. Boom. You get nothing, right? The game is over until the next block, right? So this is what proof of work is. It's miners trying to solve some pretty simple sums. They're trying to guess. Well, you know, you ever seen the crossword where they have a number algorithm where it's like 1, 5, blank, 7, 11, 13. You've got to work out what that number is. If you got it wrong and you extrapolated, the end number would be way different than if you got it right. Does that make sense? So, for instance, if I said to you, right, I want you to add 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? But if I got the number wrong, the wrong number would be multiple, really, really, really different to what the correct number should have been once you got to the order of the thousandth number, right? So this is like my basic explanation. So my point is they're trying to solve this mathematical sum, but it's not a complicated one. It's one they're trying to guess a number on. The proof of work is the amount of time and effort they're putting into it with their computers and electricity. Okay, so it's not gold out the ground, but it's something scarce, which is the resources they have on their computer right now. They could be mining something else. They could be mining something else. They can't easily create more resource. It's a limited commodity, right? So that's proof of work. Proof of stake is where it's kind of like if you're holding the coins, it's the same as mining. So just holding the coins gives you a chance to win the next block. The more coins you hold, the more chance you've got to do it. Although, you know what, when we finish this now, I'll have loads of people messaging me and go, oh, you explained this wrong and you explained that wrong. So if I get something wrong, you'd have to forgive me, okay? So delayed proof of work, okay, is a bit like all of this work and competing is happening in a really, 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 like the river analogy on Bitcoin. It's huge. The operation's massive. If we're going to use the mining analogy, and we were trying to gain influence over the miners' union. I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along, right? On a Bitcoin mine, the union would be huge. We would have to infiltrate so many people. There would be all these kind of levels, right? But if it's just, you know, Colin and Ben's mine, and there's like 4 guys mining it, we've only got to get in and say the union has a 51% vote. We've only got to influence 2 guys, right? Is this a bad analogy I'm using, or am I just making this up as I go along?
No, it's solid.
Right, so what I'm saying is delayed proof of work in this analogy I've just made up, right, is like Colin and Ben's miners have joined the union that's part of the Bitcoin union, right? So although we could go in and, I'm completely making this up as I go, although we could go in and try and bribe 2 of the guys in Ben and Colin's mine because we want them to do something nefarious, right? Because they are part of the main union from the Bitcoin mine union, they wouldn't be able to take it over. And even if they did, we could make a complaint to the, so yeah. So this is delayed proof of work is like backing it up or notarizing it on the main chain and on Bitcoin. And the reason that's important is because the hash rate is so much bigger. And the only thing you need to remember from this appalling analogy that I've just made up is that hash rate is what secures a blockchain. It is the river that the blockchains run on, right? So the transactions in the blocks are going down the river, but the width of the river is the hash rate, right?
And so you're basically using the security by the amount of hash rate that Bitcoin has. You're leveraging that in order to be able to make Komodo, which just because it hasn't been around as long as Bitcoin and doesn't have nearly as much, just like any other token, doesn't have as nearly as much of hash rate, but you're leveraging Bitcoin's security to also be able to back up your security as well. And so, and is the idea behind it, so is it to avoid the 51% attack, which if you can, you know, in your words, and you're doing a great job as far as, you know, really making it simple, you know, explain what the 51% attack is. And there actually was a recent one that just happened last month, I believe. It was... a
51% attack is when all of the miners are solving the blocks, and there has to be a consensus on it, right? If you own 51% of the mining power, you could vote for fake blocks to be created, right? So you could start printing fictional money the way that the banks do, right? But so that's what a 51% attack is. There's also a longest chain attack, which is interesting and lesser known, which is if you imagine Bitcoin had the Genesis block, and it keeps, you know, they're solving the blocks, all of these years, solving the blocks. And if you were to create literally Bitcoin, the Bitcoin chain from the very beginning, right? but I got a computer from the future that was a kabillion times more powerful, right? And I started solving blocks. I never did anything with the actual official Bitcoin chain. And I started solving blocks, but because my computer was so much more powerful, and maybe I could get some solar energy from something, and I overtake you, right? That would become the real Bitcoin chain, because all of the miners, you would wake up and all your money would be gone, right? Because the miners that are mining, the longest chain is the chain that's is the true chain, like Coder's law. Or to put this in a different way that makes it easy to understand, if you imagine there were two mining pools, one in America and one in China, and they're both competing to get that block. And do you remember what we said? Like if one pips it to the post, well, what if they both solved it at the same time? What would happen is they would go on to the next block, and first to solve it would get all of it, right? So the longest chain is the true chain. The longest chain is what's considered to be the truth, right? But yeah, it's more a counter. It's not that it prevents it, it's a counter. It means that if you were attacked, you would easily be able to see when you were attacked and go back to it, you know? And the important thing to understand about Komodo is offering this technology to everybody, to blockchain businesses and entrepreneurs. People can adopt this as a protocol, you know, they can put it onto their chain, which is why Game Credits did it, right? So one of the things that's different about Komodo and why it's more complicated is because it's not just about one thing. It's not about one idea. These guys are really prolific. There's a lot going on, right? There's the independent chains, the decentralized exchange, which is called a DEX. There's atomic swaps, which power it. And atomic swaps are really interesting. Komodo is the first project to bridge between Bitcoin and Ethereum. So you could swap a Bitcoin protocol for an ERC20 token. So why is that important, right? When you go onto Bittrex, I'm just trying to make this up here, but like say you had a Doge token, you've got to sell that on a pair to Bitcoin. And then with the Bitcoin, you can buy the Ethereum. So you've had to do 1, 2, 3 transactions, right? So if you can do a direct trade between a Bitcoin token and an Ethereum token, it's less time, less transactions, less fees, plus a DEX is cheaper anyway. DEX is like far, 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 far cheaper, you know? So
on the fees.
Yeah, I'm saying that's like an ecosystem. Komodo is like an ecosystem. It's like almost like a galaxy because you've got a core team, but even within the core team, they're working on different projects. Komodo is split into like DevSec, support, and marketing. And it's not like a hierarchical company, which is a real challenge when you start working. If you, like me, come from marketing, you don't have this ideology, so you're used to having a real kind of top-down work. And Komodo's ideology is much more like if you see a problem, you fix it, and you just work on it, you know? The other interesting thing about Komodo is they're very well funded. You know, JL was on Bitcoin Dark. They allowed everybody to swap the Bitcoin Dark coins for Komodo. It was a really favorable rate. There was a lot of money raised in it. So these guys aren't trying to raise funds. You see what I mean? They're building because they're in the space. They've been there for a very long time, you know?
It's well funded. Got it. And what was the reason that you guys actually chose to do Zcash as the fork? What was the reason that, you know, when the developers were looking and seeing, okay, you know, what are we going to do? You know, what type of platform are we going to have? What made you decide to choose Zcash?
So, well, my understanding of it is that, you know, Komodo is about privacy, security, and freedom. James is anonymous. It's that optional privacy that they want, right? There are times that you don't. I think Andropoulos is a really good talk where he talks about we're living in a time where your bank transactions and your finances have never been more transparent to the state and the government, okay? And in fact, what the government does with their money is never been more opaque. Well, okay. And the idea is that this is the wrong way around. It should be that the government and the state is clear about how they spend the money they take from you and that your personal finances are none of their business, you know? And often privacy is conflated with, well, you know, don't criminals need privacy? Don't criminals need crypto? But obviously criminals use fiat money. Criminals use dollars in their hands.
Totally. You know? A lot more than they do crypto, right?
We're losing this kind of right to privacy, right? It's this, and it becomes almost foreign to people when you talk to them. You know, you have got a right to privacy. You should be able to pursue happiness. You don't have to answer to anybody. It's nobody's business what you're doing, you know? So yeah,
And speaking of privacy, can we actually talk about that? Because that's one of your guys' main features is the privacy side. Can why would somebody as opposed to a Dash, a Pivx, all the Monero, the ones that are out there, do you guys have any type of special features or ideas and tech that you've developed or are developing that would make Komodo a higher or a better coin in regards to privacy?
So we have a technology called Jumbler, which is like a coin shuffler, but it also, I'm having to stretch my head here, but so basically what it would do is it would take the coins that you put in, but it anonymizes completely. It's an even more secure version of like zero knowledge proofs, because it takes the amounts you're putting in and the times you're putting in, and it completely jumbles them. And I can get a technical explanation for you. Yeah, but the Jumbler technology on Komodo is unique, and it's an enhanced version. So you can take funds, completely anonymize them, and then they come out the other end. And I read an article, a really good article about this actually, which is about how money needs to be fungible. Is that how you pronounce it? Do you know what I mean? So the point of money is that like a dollar is like any other dollar, right? A dollar doesn't have a history with it, does it? Right? When you go and get $25 or 10 pesos or £5 from the bank, one of the key attributes of it is that it's interchangeable for any other £5 note, $10 note, whatever, right? Right. If you start attaching history to it, it isn't fungible, because then some is bad, some is good. So one of the most enduring characteristics of money is that one piece is good at another. And so that would be another reason that you would want to use. And I think they were also talking about like wheat or any other commodity, a fungible commodity like that. One should be as good as another. And so for that reason, sometimes, you may not want one business to know that you got the money from somebody else. There's lots of good reasons, right? Like you could be a freelancer and you could be working for 3 or 4 different companies. Maybe there's some bad blood between 2 of them. It doesn't have to be a nefarious reason that you may want to have some, opaqueness in your own private transactions,
Some privacy on that. Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's a little bit on the privacy side, and you're pretty much saying that, like, for instance, if you received some transaction from somebody, or you received some Komodo from somebody, that if that was three transactions away, if that money was done in a nefarious way, you're saying that by having privacy on that you don't have to worry about having something that you're not related to, but that it's almost kind of spoiling the. What if
I wanted to work? Yeah, what if I wanted to work for Komodo? Now I'm not doing this, right? But just for the sake of argument, I wanted to work for Komodo, but then Monero offered me to do some work, and then Bitcoin Hash offered me to do some work, and I was doing all this work for all these privacy coins, right? Do you think they'd all be really pleased that I was doing like the same work for them? Now, it might be really honest, right? I might not be like, okay, I'm sure your audience could say, oh, well, Ben, you might have to sign an NDA or a non-compete clause, but let's just for the sake of argument, right? Say I was a writer, okay? So there's nothing intrinsically, there's no reason I can't turn my skill to another writing blog, but it might be seen by people to, they might not be happy that I'm doing the work for these projects that are of a similar nature, right? So maybe when I get paid, I want those coins to be shuffled and to be made opaque and to be made non-traceable. And that's what Jumbler does. It's to do with the timings. It's not just the amount of coins you put in, now that I think of it. It's about the times that you put them in. So somebody could be looking like a time attack. I think it's called a time lock or a time attack, where they're looking at not just the amounts that go in, but when they go in, right? The pattern, the times they're going in. And this just completely shuffles them. But I can if you want, I can get a technical description for you after.
Yeah, no. That's solid. I mean, that's something that we can, follow back with the tech guys. I know that that's not your area. And frankly, we like to really kind of focus on the 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 main points. And as far as you get down too much in the tech, you're kind of in the weeds too much. So
one of the main points, one of the most interesting things about Komodo that you don't always get in other projects is that James Lee, JO777, the founder of the whole thing, is really accessible. Although he's anonymous, anyone can message him on Discord, anyone can message him on Slack, although we're moving to Discord now. So he's very accessible, which isn't always the case. Like, could you drop a message to Vitalik right now and get a response?
Yeah,
probably not, right? Yeah. James Lee, within a couple of days, will give you a response.
Mm-hmm.
He's very reachable. You can reach out to me, but you can actually reach out to James Lee anytime,
Got it. Excellent. So that's a little bit on the privacy side. Let's talk about, the platform. Can you talk about some of the type of dApps and ICOs that are working with Komodo and why it is that they're choosing, Komodo platform as opposed to the other ones that are out there?
So one of the reasons they're going to choose it is because they can have an independent chain. It's more secure. It's got the security of Bitcoin's hash rate through delayed proof of work, because they're able to get involved with DEX, which is a decentralized exchange. So immediately they have someone where their coin can be traded. It's literally life and death, right? You need someone to be able to buy the coin. You need people to be able to trade it, right? Some of the coins that we've done is we had Menace, which is like a banking project. It's a little bit like Monaco or something like that, where somebody can open up a UK bank account within like 5 minutes, right? And they get like an IBAN number, the whole lot, right? So that was Menace. Utrum, which is to do with like a ICO evaluation, and they have like influential analysts, and they're gonna be looking at all of the ICOs and kind of projects within blockchain, and then evaluating them and scoring them. We have Block Nation, which has a working business behind it to do with cashless payments. The wristbands that you have, where if you're at an event in Thailand or something and you don't want to carry loads of money around you, or you're at the hostel, you can just swipe your wristband, or it's like a technology. You have a sticker on your phone, you scan it like that.
Yep, I've seen that.
So it means that you don't
have technology that they're doing.
Yeah, and they actually use that kind of radar. There's an RF, they have a abbreviation for it. But the idea is that if you're a traveler, you want a gap here, you go to music festivals, you can cross borders, you can go to different events, and you can pay without having to deal with currency, But the customer then, if you flip it around, is they're also like an event management software through events. So for you, the customer, that's the value of the token. But for the person who's running the event, they're also helping turn you from an offline customer to an online customer, right? And so that helps the business grow. They've got a whole business model already. They've already got their first customer. Who else have we got? You know what? I'm going to have a quick look, because I know I'm going to get a message on Slack and it'll be really cross if I forgot.
That's solid. Just some real, and that's one of the things we talk about it on the crypto side is that hearing those other real use cases, that's really what's going to take crypto from where it's at right now and really more mainstream, is when you just keep on hearing these continual dApps and ICOs that are coming out and that are solving real world problems, and that's those are some great ones. Opening up a bank account that you don't live in a different country on other side of the planet. I mean, that has huge value. Being able, I was just at one of those festivals a couple months ago in Costa Rica, and they had that, and that type of technology was so easy. I was able to, instead of worrying about the cash, it just, you load up your credits and boom, you're there. So no, that's great. And it's good to hear that you guys are a part of that, that your platform is really helping these type of dApps and ICOs launch.
It's, there's like EOS and these kind of really huge projects, right? Everybody's heard of them. They've got so much backing, right? And I don't have a bad thing to say about them, but the only thing is I'm differentiating in, I hope the audience's mind, that how much money, how many VCs, all the people that are supporting that. Komodo has working tech. It has working tech. We've done over 110,000 atomic swaps. Charlie Lee at the end of last year, he's great, right? They were talking about a test atomic swap with Litecoin. That got a lot of press, right? But Komodo's at 110K, right? We're not talking about manual atomic swaps. We're talking a fully working order book. The independent chains have already launched a lot of different projects. But the difference with Komodo, I guess, is that we're lowering the barriers for blockchain entrepreneurs, right? It's not, we're not EOS. We don't have like 40 billion for one project, right? This is a much more truer to the idea of decentralization, right? And I appreciate, right, that there are extremes. Right? We're not saying we want to get so decentralized that everybody's locked on an island in their own box, right? We're not saying that, but we are trying to make it easier for the average person who wants to run a business, for the average project that wants to get something running, and making it achievable, you know?
And another one of those things and ways that you're doing that is through the decentralized exchange, so that you're actually creating a place where it's like, hey, you guys can build on our platform. You guys can use the technology that we have. And if you want to have some liquidity, we have a decentralized exchange as well. Now, do they have to be on the Komodo platform in order to be on the exchange? And if you can, just for someone, brand new in crypto, what is a decentralized exchange? How does it differ, than a Bittrex, than, a Binance, than these guys? And then if you can, let's talk more about your specific decentralized exchange and why it is. I mean, that's a lot of projects, right? Normally somebody is just a privacy coin, or they're just, they're working with decentralized apps, or they're just a decentralized exchange. You guys have a lot of different projects that you're taking on, and it sounds like the reason why you have these projects, because they all kind of, in a way, they all interact and they all support the other feature that you guys have. So, we talked privacy coins, we talked about the platform and the dApps that you're developing. Let's talk about the decentralized exchange. So again, if you kind of go, wide for the Homer Simpsons of crypto, and then kind of talk more about yours would be great.
So, cryptocurrency, not blockchain, which is technology, but cryptocurrency, which is the coins, okay? The whole point of it was to get away from centralized banks, right, who were printing this fictitious money, okay? And by the way, that's how wars get funded. That's how that happens, right? So the point with cryptocurrency was you were going to get away from middlemen. You were going to get away from these third-party arbitrates that decided whether or not you were going to get your money. Every time you get a cash machine, take your money out of your fiat, out of your mainstream bank, right? You think that your money's in there, but the bank gets to decide whether you get the money out. And you can go and ask people in Greece whether that's the case, right? Because they'll tell you it is. One day they can just stop. Most of the time you get it, but it can just be taken away from you like that, right? That was the point. Cryptocurrency is to try and remove this centralized authority over currency that can manipulate it for its nefarious ends, right? So what happened though was the coins are created, Bitcoin's created, but these centralized exchanges come in, right? Now, look, there are some really good ones out there, but there were also some ones that charge insane money to projects to list their coins. Then they charge for the transactions, right? Secondly, when you send your private keys to an exchange, if they're hacked, you've lost your money. Maybe, if you're lucky, right, they'll do something about reimbursing it. But the point is, you're giving up your private keys, which kind of negates a lot of the point of cryptocurrency, where you are in control of your own funds, where it's decentralized, where there isn't a central point of attack. So a centralized exchange, or you can call it a CEX, right? CEX. I don't know if anybody else does, but we call it DEX for decentralized, right? A decentralized exchange is powered by an underlying tech called atomic swaps. So an atomic swap is a peer-to-peer trade without a middleman. That's you and me decide that we're going to swap whatever we want to swap. Now, it doesn't mean that Colin has met Ben for coffee, right? It means that you've come into the exchange, you've said that you want to swap this, and they find somebody that wants it, and it's done on a peer-to-peer level, right? So there isn't a centralized exchange at the back of it. It's literally two people. Like torrents. Torrents, remember people downloading movies and stuff back in the day? I'm sure we never did that, right? But I've heard other people did. Hypothetically, I've heard that people did that, right? So think of it like that, right? Remember file sharing, uTorrent, all those things that we didn't do. So it's a peer-to-peer swap, right? The way that you're doing file-to-file swaps was peer-to-peer, right? There is no iTunes. There is no, kind of central website you're going to. It's basically getting a lot of different people. What have you got? What have you got? Oh, I want that. And you swap it, right? So
got it. And real quick, can you explain, if somebody, for instance, if you're saying I want to swap, XYZ for YZX, if that same amount, if there's not somebody else that's out there that has that same amount, how does that work?
They shuffle up the different amounts. So sometimes you're going to wait a bit of a longer. Like one of the issues at the moment is you may wait a little bit longer than you would in a centralized exchange. So liquidity, if we were trying to play devil's advocate and saying, where does Komodo need to improve? Liquidity is definitely a thing. I'm aware of conversations that are taking place literally past few days, past few weeks. So we're looking at resolving that, you know. So liquidity is one thing, okay? When there are different balances and stuff, sometimes you're going to have to wait for somebody to want to do the trade. But with enough liquidity, that shouldn't be too much of a problem, you know. Also, like the order matching has recently got improved. We just posted about that on Twitter, you know. So going back to your original question about exchanges, now we understand what an atomic swap is. An atomic swap is that concept of a peer-to-peer trade, right? A decentralized exchange is a wallet-to-wallet trade without a middleman. So if you're in your Agama wallet, you know, it's a multi-coin wallet, you're able to trade literally without giving up your private keys. And there's a really good video about atomic swaps that we've got out. I'll retweet it after this, right? And I'll pin it to the top of our Twitter so you can see. But it basically shows these train tracks, right? You've got these 2 train stations, and it explains about how an atomic swap is like you're offering the money, but there's no risk. If the other person doesn't fulfill their bargain, you just get the money back, right? There isn't any risk around doing the atomic swap until both people commit. So if you imagine parallel train tracks, that's how they were kind of both carriages with the money, and then it locks, then you do the swap, you know? You don't, what's that? You know, no, it's probably too. I'm trying to imagine those train tracks, you know, where they switch with the handles. I was trying to quickly evaluate whether I should go down that. Yeah.
I played with trains when I was a kid. I'm not afraid to say.
So that's it. A decentralized exchange is that, right? And that's what Komodo does, right? Now there was some hoorah around on Twitter, if you were looking at like the kind of crypto gossip about someone saying, but is this like a really clean direct atomic swap? Like, is it like a one chain to one chain atomic swap, right? Mm-hmm. But the answer to that is like, well, no, because that would require it a relay, and therefore it would be more centralized. And not only that, it would create congestion like on Ethereum, right? Now, I know why the person was talking about it, because they wanted to claim the first Bitcoin to Ethereum. And we found out that we did it, but I'll go back into that. The point with the atomic swap is they use like a proxy chain so that it's done on a side chain. Do you know what I mean? So that it's burnt on a proxy token. So you have your main chain, the second chain, and then the third chain. But that way, it's actually decentralized. And you're not relying on a central point to relay, oh, Colin gave me this and Ben gave me that. It's done through that. Does that help? That probably confusing a little bit at the end, but yeah.
No, that's solid. No, it's good. And so as far as volume wise, how many coins do you have on the decentralized exchange, and how much volume are you doing?
So I'm going to get you some stats now. Hang on. But what I'll say as well is that's really interesting is that DEX can support over 95% of all coins and tokens in existence. So literally, if somebody was listening to this and their favorite coin or token couldn't get listed, and I bet you that's a pain point for some people, you know, why can't we get listed? Where can we get listed? On DEX, you can get listed. It's got even easier to submit your coin. On Twitter, I've recently posted on Medium as well, how you can do that. It's literally one line of code. You just put it into a repository. It's super, super simple, you know? I'm going to give your audience somewhere to go and look at the stats, because there's loads, right? So it's DEXSTATS.info. So DEXstats.info. And if you want to look at volume, if you want to have a look at this stuff without having to listen to my British accent, then you can pause it and then you can go and have a look at you can go and have a look. There's loads of different loads of information in there, you know.
Great. So DEXstats.info. That's solid.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So we'll take a look at that. I haven't heard that before. That's a great share. One of the things I did want to talk about is you guys provide a 5% annual ROI just for holding
now.
Tokens. It's 5.1. Okay. So 5.1, you know, why did you guys create this incentive? And, what role do you see, this playing as far as adding more people to the Komodo ecosystem? Is this something that can scale? Can you kind of talk a little bit more about that ROI?
So there's a limit to it when all the coins have been mined, right? But beyond that, so what it isn't interest or anything like that, because it has to be based on you being active. And there's all kinds of reasons why that would be the case, like legally, So it's something you have to earn by being active. And by being active, it's in the wallet, right? But also with Komodo, this isn't...
So it's not staking, correct? I mean, because you guys are...
Staking.
Right, you guys are doing work. So how would you guys compare it? And I'm sure you guys have to be very careful just because you don't want it to be considered a security, right? So talk if you could share more about that side.
So
of
the point is that you need to move the coins around. Now you could send them to yourself and then you would get your 5.1% if you did it. If every month you were moving the coins, you'd get about 5.1% at the end of the year, right? Overall, if you're active, so every month you must move the entirety of your coins, even if it's to send it to yourself. If you're in the Agama wallet, you can claim it, similar to the way that you do with Neo, right, and Gas. But the difference with Neo and Gas is when you claim your rewards with Neo, you get Gas, and so you only get a certain amount of Gas. But with Komodo, it's based on it's like compound rewards. Do you know what I mean? So so if you understand the power of that. The reason why JL707 did it that way, I don't know the exact reason, but it's an incentive for people to hold the coin. Also with Komodo, there's let's talk about the mining briefly, just so that people understand. There's like 60, well.
No, I was going to say, so as far as the holding, when you talk about holding, it sounded like it's more about holding and using it. Is that one of the goals? So it's both. You're it's right. Not just holding it, but it's really trying to increase adoption or to have this type of transaction.
So it's something that you're actually using. You know what I mean? That it's in motion. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. You were talking about proof of stake. There's a really interesting, and these guys haven't tried to raise any money, which is really interesting, right? Called Veriscoin on Komodo, and like these developers are really super heavyweight too. I know Mike Tout was he worked on the Windows 95 kernel for Microsoft for 35 years. He's like really old school, and they've got 50% proof of work, 50% proof of stake. They've got a concept called proof of virtue. But what's exciting about it right now is it's the most friendly CPU coin you can mine, and it's the quickest, right? And I think that's...
Which point is this again? I'm sorry?
This is not being publicized at all. So when I'm telling you this now, just bear in mind, these guys aren't trying to make any money. They're not trying to raise any money. They're literally just doing it. The only way you're going to find out about it is if you're either listening to this podcast or you've been watching Twitter really, really closely, right? So,
super DL, the down low of the super down low.
Yeah. But I really like it. And I even, I probably shouldn't say actually, went off and invented some servers. And so it's called veruscoin.io. So veruscoin.io, okay? And they have a really interesting white paper. What they're doing is solving the voting problem. So you have these different identities, like your driving habits, insurance, right? Then you've got your grocery shopping. Then maybe you've got your marriage, or maybe you've gone to your medical history. You have all this different data, right? Like Facebook. Imagine every time you sign in something with Facebook to authenticate who you are, how much data you're giving up, right? This is the same, but it's like for elections or for votes or anything like that, where it lets you authenticate who you are, but separate the data that you're giving people, right? So I can say, look, I'm actually a British citizen. I am entitled to vote, but I don't want to have to say who I am for whatever the reason might be, right? You could imagine someone high profile, or they don't want to say. So this is to do with privacy and anonymity again. I can't say the word, but the idea is that you're able to vote on something without necessarily saying who you are. That union, in the miners' union we're talking about, right? We've got an important vote going. Sometimes you need to say, I'm allowed to vote, but I don't want to say that it's me that's doing it, right? So this is what they're working on. It's like James Lee said some nice things about them, which is he doesn't, when JL7 says something, you think, okay, well, maybe I'll go and investigate that, right? So yeah, veruscoin.io, you can literally mine that with your laptop. It's CPU friendly and they favor CPUs. It's not to say GPU doesn't work. Of course it does. But yeah, it's really, really interesting, and that's not widely promoted. The other one that I think is interesting is Mimblewimble is the technology, and Grin is the coin, but it's still on testnet, and you can't mine it yet. But you should have a look into that. It's really interesting.
I have heard of Grin, and actually, I believe I was talking to the guys at Zcash that he brought that up to me as far as another, I believe a super privacy coin as well. Correct?
Yeah, except now I'm gonna have to. I'm really stretching here, but it's not like they haven't forked off something. They've created it completely from scratch, and I guess like their comparison was like if Monero was Bitcoin, then they would be the Litecoin. But it's totally different technology that they're working with. And I was listening to a really great podcast. I don't know if I don't want to name it but I was listening to really.
Sure.
I think it's like Captain Crypto or something like that, right? And he did one about it, and he had the guy on it. And what was interesting was the model, right? Was this was someone that like raised the funds for him to carry on working, but he's super responsible to the community, where he writes what he's doing. This is what you've paid me, and this is the work that I've done, and he does it in bouts, right? So yeah, that was a really interesting coin. I'm not a big miner, but I'm doing a little bit of Eris, and I'm definitely doing a little bit of Grin when that comes. So
okay, Grin, Veris. Yeah, anyway. That's great. No, Veris I haven't heard of before, but Grin, that you're the second person on interviews that I've heard that I heard about it from. So great. It's cool that you're sharing other projects. It's not just Komodo. You guys are. That's another.
Komodo's open source.
Great. Yeah.
That's the thing. Komodo's open source, and you were talking about we did decentralized ICOs, right? So that Whale couldn't come in and buy all of one coin, right? And that was using like DEX and Decentralized Exchange technology, right? So we had a premier partner, and like that was more of a centralized structure. Now what we're seeing is different community projects within Komodo offering like BAS, like blockchain as a service, so you have people who come in and say, I want to use this technology, but I don't have the developers to do it yet, right? Like I know Chainzilla by P2IX, he's like the support manager for Komodo, or he was, he's doing one. I think there's another one in the works. There's definitely, and Komodo Pioneers might be doing something similar too. But it's basically helping entrepreneurs that don't have all of those skills get in and get a blockchain set up. You know what I mean? So like, I guess with the Komodo, the thing is, it's much more, it's grassroots. Do you know what I'm saying? It's much more of the people. It's much more of people, lots of little projects working on stuff together. It's much more of an overall ecosystem. And it's such an overused word, ecosystem. But you know what I'm getting at? There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of little projects. Mm-hmm. You can't, as a marketing guy, come in and tell everybody what to do. It doesn't work that way, right? One of the challenges I've got is all the Twitter handles. I was like, guys, we need to consolidate our social media. And yeah, good luck, because I'm not the boss of them, right? I can't tell them what to do. I can advise them. I can say, oh, you should give me your information and just go through the Komodo. But if they don't like what I'm saying, then they don't do it, So
right.
Yeah, that's
the pros and cons of decentralization. But when it comes down to it, you guys decide that going that route is better than than the other.
Well, I had to do like a mental shift and realize that it's about serving the team, the technology that we've got, and fitting in with how they work. Like I did spend a little bit of time trying to get them to work my way, but like then I realized that's not gonna work.
Herding cats almost. Yeah. Got it.
So excellent. I did. Go on. I done 5 Bullet Fridays basically. That was this is my little shout out for myself, right? So one of the things I thought was very difficult with Komodo is you got to join Slack. All of the information isn't always obvious if you're new to crypto, and I was as well, right? Sometimes someone like Slack or Discord could be foreign, and you've got to navigate it, and you don't know who's who, and people have got different handles, right? So with 5 Bullet Fridays, like 5 bullet points every Friday. Top 5 most important things in your inbox, right? So I'm trying to simplify things for people so that all of this, a lot of, what am I looking for? Like a lot of, so many moving parts. I want to kind of try and simplify it and make it easy for people to follow,
Totally. Well, I mean, it's a never-ending dark hole as far as when it comes to crypto. I mean, you could literally spend 24 hours a day learning about the coins and protocols and platforms and ICOs. I mean, it never stops. So I like that. And that's one of the
Komodo
things
is like that. That's what working for Komodo is like, because I don't even look at other projects anymore. I don't even look at the numbers. My dad was ringing me up going, have you looked at Crypto Pro or Blockfolio, you know? Because we got accepted to Blockfolio's Signal platform recently, which is pretty cool, right?
Okay.
But and that the Signal platform on Blockfolio is aimed at, like, you know, on Twitter there's so much noise, everybody's talking, but on Blockfolio they have a Signal platform, and it's meant to be just the verified projects that are giving you the news, you know. So we got accepted to that. But yeah, my dad,
that's something that you apply to. I've seen the Signal part to it. You apply, and then they review, and then they either give you the kind of like, in a way, exchanges. When they go through the same process, you apply on an exchange, and then they go through, do their due diligence, and then decide whether then you have to bring it up. Although with exchanges, from what I heard, that the amount of money that you have to spend and invest to get on these exchanges is just absolutely crazy. I mean, they're like, you know,
I've been in those discussions, and they are crazy. I've seen some really mad numbers, you know.
That's what I've heard. And that's another thing why decentralized exchanges, you know, have such a future as well, because as of right now, you know, in order to really get the high volume exchanges, I mean, you got to write a big check, don't you?
A really big check, you know. And like, you know, it can vary from exchange to exchange. So, you know, and also I don't want to ostracize any exchanges or do any shit talking, you know, because, like, I think one of the things is we want to collaborate with people. It's not that there isn't a space for centralized exchanges. It's that there needs to be a space for people that can't afford that right away, or that can't hit that exchange straight away. At the moment, people are really dependent upon it, right? You know, all you see on Twitter is, oh, you need to get listed to an exchange. Well, you know, if you set up something in, like, you know, Colombia or whatever, and, you know, one of the projects that I forgot to tell you about, and I know that he will tell me off if I forget, was called, let me find my Discord quickly. Yeah, Equalizer. They've got their ICO running, and that's about sustainable housing. And it's quite interesting about how he wants to build property, and it's much more economical, but it's not in the initial outlay of the property, right? It's in, once it's built, it's much more economical by the power of something ridiculous. It's like a 25% of the normal running cost of a house. So over its lifetime, it becomes much cheaper to run. So they're running one there, you know. Yeah.
Okay.
Equalizer.
Interesting. So let's talk about, you know, the future. Give me kind of an idea of, like, you know, where Komodo is going to, you know, go from here. You know, you talk a lot about, you know, a lot of the projects are decentralized. How do you guys go about, you know, deciding, like, what's next, and then what is next for Komodo?
So for the projects, we want to get them to the point where it's almost like you're able to pick up the tools and do it yourself. Like, the ultimate dream is that your grandma could get on the blockchain, set up her home baking cookies and whatever, right? And, you know, maybe she's going to decentralize her cookie token so everybody can share in the profit, right? As long as they're willing to invest. So, but for Komodo, we've got Komodo 2.0. We have smart contracts coming. We have something called I can never say it, Merkle of Merkle, which is a way of, like, scaling the blockchains in a way where they're all interrelated. And I have explained that terribly, and I will be in trouble. But I can definitely get some information out about that. There's a lot of content that I'm aware of that hasn't been posted yet, that's been working on about Merkle of Merkle. And it's not the same as sharding, and that's going to get posted soon, you know. So there's a national currency solution that JL77 and the team is really confident that they've got too. So if you think about Veris solving the voting problem, we haven't yet announced it. Well, I guess I am a little bit, but we have, like, a national currency. Now, that might not be a national currency straight away. Maybe we're going to look for a city.
National currency? Which nation are you talking about? It's a currency that some other nation could adopt, or
exactly, like that a nation could adopt, you know. And I'm relaying some ideas here that I know are coming and that I'm aware of. Because I'm doing social media, because I'm doing the email, I have a limited amount of time. So, like, sometimes there are conversations where I'm skim reading them. But I mean, like, say if you're my boss or whatever, I know that you're going to be like, why isn't this out? Why isn't that out? I've got community members. Ben, why haven't you posted about this? Like, people are on my case. Like, why haven't you? So I'm skim reading some of this stuff, but I know for a fact, yeah, a national currency solution where a lot of the core problems with that, James considers to be solved. So I'm not saying it's finished, but I'm saying that it's close, and you know we're looking for this opportunity. So the first one may not be a country, it may be a city, right? You know, lots of cities want to have their own coin, like Bristol does, for instance, in the UK. Though we haven't spoken to them, I don't believe, right? But there's all kind of use cases where you may want to have your own city currency, and you know, so that may be one way that we're looking at. You know.
And you're going to be using the Komodo platform and exchange potentially for this type of national currency, because you're one of the first people that I've actually heard. I've heard of other groups, you know, working with different governments, but for you guys, it sounds like you're almost developing a white label type national currency type token.
White label is a good way to think about all the Komodo technology, because let's go back to the start of the call when we said that, like, you know, we are not Apple that are trying to deal with all of the general public, right? We're more, I'm not saying we're the same, but we're more like Intel that has a chip. We have a technology that we want to give to the developers, or the developers of dApps, or to projects who then would serve the general public. So you may hear about Komodo, but it won't probably through being a direct customer of it. It will be the technology that is lying underneath the project that you're using, right? So if you can understand that, then you can kind of understand a little bit better, because you get into conversation with people and they'll go, oh, Komodo's marketing is really bad. But the Komodo's marketing is, we're not going to dump a lot of money into just running adverts for nothing, right? The kind of people that we're trying to target and make our customers are the kind of people that you're probably funding, you're probably buying into an ICO on, you know?
Guys, you're basically saying make the steaks so sexy that the sizzle comes from the steak, so to say. Instead, you know, where a lot of people, where they, you know, they have a little bit of technology and then they, you know, throw a huge marketing budget behind it, you know, trying to get, you know, these different headlines and have these, you know, Cointelegraph, these different media sources, you know, blast it out. It sounds like you're almost like, let's, you know, give as many great features and benefits to people to develop on, and let the results and let what people create speak for itself.
That's definitely James. Like, James Lee is like prolific. The amount of work this guy does is prolific, right? Like, so there's all of this working technology. It's not a case, I don't think, I can't speak for him, but I don't think he's too worried about, is this one use case going to work? He's creating really innovative technology that's years ahead of other projects. Of course it's going to work. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to get adopted. Atomic swaps are going to get adopted. They are adopted. The only thing that's happening now in the space is that sometimes you'll have people that are trying to race for these firsts. And it doesn't matter whether they're really first, right? Because they're trying to create some press and some news cycles, you know? But at the end of the day, let's say this bear market finishes, and we're not predicting price, but you know, the bear market finishes, we do another bull, then we do another bear, right? And there's going to be, everyone talks about the big crash. What's going to be left after, right? It's going to be the projects with the working tech, right? So I think, what's that? Is that SpaceX or whatever? There's a great evaluation thing that they do there. You know, the reason China ranked Komodo in the top 5, which you can independently go and look at, it's in their rankings, right, is based on the working tech. And I can give you a link to it as well. And the second most innovative after Bitcoin. Second most innovative after Bitcoin. So, like, that's not, they're not saying we've got the biggest market cap or what the price is going to be. They're just ranking it based on working tech, right? So,
is that the recent one that just came out that I think they had EOS as number 1? Was that the one? They had like the top 5?
Let me find it.
I think that was
top 5 China Komodo, and I bet you anyone that's got a laptop in front of them. Yeah, if you Google top 5 China Komodo, I posted a blog post about this, and I think there is so the top 5 are Ethereum, Steem, Lisk, Neo, and Komodo. And then below Komodo is Stellar, Cardano, IOTA, Monero, Stratis, Qtum, BitShares, Bitcoin, and Waves. But that's the overall ranking, right? If you look in the sub-index and you have a look at the technology, Komodo comes second, you know? And if you have a look at the innovation, in fact, you know what? I'll just link it to you and then you can see. I may have misspoken there. It's either tech or innovation, but they're not in order, so I don't want to. speak.
Solid. No, I mean, regardless, I mean, that's a great accolade to have, you know, and that just further goes by saying that you guys have been focusing more on the tech as opposed to the hype and all of that.
Marketing has to catch up, you know, and like the CMO Steve is like a real enterprise guy. He worked for Hewlett Packard, right? So the thing is, the sort of stuff that Steve's doing is not like, you know, I work for the World Bank of Scotland. I manage a community called BizCrowd of 35,000 people. And, you know, like, so my skill set is like emails and social media and that kind of marketing, right? Steve is at another level, right? So the kind of stuff that Steve's organizing and talking about right now is like beyond my pay grade, right? So I can't hint at anything that he's doing, but it's really high level, right? So
got it. Yeah, no worries. So, man, great interview, Ben. I mean, you really knocked it out as far as just really laying out what you guys are doing, what you guys are going to be doing, and just, you know, some of the key main features to Komodo. I learned a ton. I'm sure a lot of the other viewers, listeners have also learned a ton. So, you know, for the last question, a lot of these people that are viewers, you know, they are just getting into crypto. They're trying to figure out, navigate their way. What should they do? They don't want to make mistakes. You know, they've all heard about people making big money. They've also heard about people losing big money. So give us like one or two tips just for, you know, you being in this space for the time that you have been, for, you know, those folks that are just getting in, hook them up with a little something from London, from England.
I'll give you 3 tips. These are sincere tips. So 1, buy a hardware wallet. Just buy a hardware wallet, get done with it. Go and buy go and buy a Ledger or a Trezor, right? Yeah. With the Ledger, you can store Komodo on it. You won't get the rewards yet, but we're trying to work on that, okay? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I probably shouldn't say because I want to, but I keep my Komodo in a Ledger, right? Because it's just safe, right? I keep it at my uncle's, so don't worry. No point coming to my house, right? So, but now my uncle's in trouble, right? Now my uncle's
right.
Like,
he's got lots of uncles, though.
Right. I got lots of uncles, yeah. So number 1, get a hardware wallet, and it's easily the best thing you can do because it separates. Working with paper wallets and cold storage is a pain in the ass. So yeah, hardware wallet. Put it somewhere safe. Make sure you've got a backup of the seed and put that in a different location. Okay. What's the next thing? Number 2, you know, personally, I did some trading. I realized I suck, right? So for me, the investments I personally make, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just telling you what I did, right? Is, you know, pick the stuff that's going to win the race in the long term. And I know in a way I'm recommending Komodo by doing that, but you've got to do your diligence. You've got to make your own decisions, right? But you know, pick the thing that's going to work in the long run, and then bury your seed in the ground and come back in 2 years, right? Or, you know, maybe not quite that thing, but like, yeah, I think getting caught up in the trading, especially if you're not a experienced trader, I think like there's a lot of ICO stuff out there. And it's really difficult while you're navigating some of the terms like proof of work. If you're at a point where you're learning these terms, I think like, you know, just listening to podcasts, orientating yourself is really important. And so I would base it. Another way of putting this is like Bitcoin Benny talks about, we've already gone through a huge round of ICOs to begin with, and those projects got funded, right? So you're now in a position where you can evaluate how well they've come from what they said they would do to what they have done. So you'd want to think long and hard before you start gambling on an unproven project or ICO right now, right? Is one way to think of it. Because there's other projects out there that have already proven how well or badly they've done from the money that was invested. So you've got some kind of a track record, right? Now, I'm not saying one way or the other, but that's just one way to think about it, you know? And my 3rd tip is the tip that I've given all of my friends, which is like, look, I'm mining the shit out of Veris at the moment. So like that was my thing. I thought that was a really interesting project.
You're mining what? Say that again.
Veris coin, which is, yeah, and that was within Komodo. They're not trying to raise funds. They don't care about the marketing. They're building the technology first. So like when I mine that, I'm not expecting that to be worth anything this year, next year, but it's like a long play, right? You could be mining that on your laptop now or your PC, and it's CPU friendly. Do you know they time lock the coins? So when you mine them and you get the block rewards, sometime between 3 months and 2 years, they mature. So you have 2 types, immature coins and mature coins. And that's a really innovative feature, because then what you're saying is you can mine it, but you're not going to be able to spend it straight away. So you're going to have to hold it for a little bit, you know? So that's my third tip. If you're in that kind of position where you're like, oh, I've put all my money into crypto that I can reasonably do, what else could I be doing right now that's going to get me something? You know, you can download an Agama wallet, but it's a customized Agama wallet from the veriscoin.io website. You can open it up, and within it, you can just start mining. It's super friendly. It's a Windows GUI. So,
Colin.
Yeah, and my fourth tip obviously is Komodo, because I'm not putting all my time into it if I didn't think it was a really great project, right? So
right, excellent. Well, Ben, man, again, thank you very much. And for everyone that's listening, you know, again, you know, this is, you're here and, you know, one of the members of, you know, this a top 60 token. You know, these guys, you know, they obviously know what they're doing, and you can just tell by the passion in somebody's voice, you know, if they believe in what they're doing or not. And it's just, it's very, very transparent, Ben, that, you know what you're talking about. You're passionate about what you're talking about, and you see a future with Komodo, and not just with Komodo, but other projects that are being created on Komodo, and kind of supporting them as well, which, you know, really says a lot that you're not just, you know, totally only focused on, you know, your platform. You're also, you know, talking about all of the other different types of tokens and projects that are working. So, you know, great tips as well at the end. I'm going to check out this Varus coin, and then also Grin. You know, you're the second
Grin's
individual that told me.
You can mine Varus right now. The halving is going to be in next month. There's just been one, and then after that, so like the next month is optimal, which you're going to mine it, right? Super optimal, and then you can worry about Grin next. And I'll just say one last, and thank you very much for having me on the podcast, by the way. Let me just say that over the next 7 days, if any of your audience want to send you questions and you give me all those questions after 7 days, I'll personally go and get answers from James Lee and the team and come back and give you all those questions if you want to post them somewhere. I don't know if that's any use to you, but I'm happy to do it.
No, that'd be great. No, and I mean, you really, you know, nailed a lot of the things that, you know, I wasn't 100% clear on, and that, you know, I wanted to get some feedback from you on it. So absolutely. Yeah, we'll make that available. And, you know, for everyone listening, you know, again, like I said, you know, take time to not just, you know, study the trends, study the charts, but take time to learn about the teams that are behind the projects that you're involved in. And for me, you know, I'm more of like what Ben was talking about. I'm more of the long-term hold. I want to talk. I don't want to look every single day like, oh no, okay, you know, I'm up 20%, so I need to take my profits. That's not, you know, I have traders that do some trading for me, but for me, I'm looking for the long projects. And one of those top reasons and motivators for me to choose what coin I'm going to put my hard-earned money in is the team. And so, you know, as you guys can see, I'm doing this to try to bring out more from, you know, these different groups and these different organizations on who these people are, and really get, you know, behind the scenes, pull back the curtain, and Ben, you did that. So hope everyone who listened to this, you guys picked up some awesome content. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, you know, tell Ben what you think about him and his British accent over there. Very much appreciated for really laying it out. And we'll make sure to keep on bringing top-notch interviews with top-notch tokens and show you how you can crush it in crypto as well. So Ben, again, thank you very much, my friend.